Okay. Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is an indie pop artist newly based in Nashville. A Utah native, she's been writing songs for nearly half her life. With a beautiful combination of lyrics from the heart and melodies your ears will never forget, she's built an undeniable momentum over the last 2 years. Welcome, Dasie.
Yay. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here. I always like to start with where your story with music kind of all started.
Yeah. Oh man. I feel like it's almost a cliche answer because I feel like it's really common for music makers to just be like, oh, I did it since I could talk. But it kind of feels that way, where like if you go back and if I were to watch home videos, I'm like always the like really obnoxious child that's like, camera, get on me, and like was singing songs, being like, record me singing this song now. So that was seems like an ingrained thing in me that I just really wanted to sing and also really wanted that attention. So but also like when I was a kid, me and my cousins, um, we had this band called the Crazy Cousins where we would like put on performances for all the adults every time our families got together. And so me and my little brother would write the songs for that. So it just kind of like was always a thing that I really just liked to do as a kid, was writing songs and singing. And I my first gig was singing princess songs at a friend's wedding. That when I was like 8, it's actually the cutest thing ever. Like if you're ever planning a wedding, hire an 8-year-old to sing Disney princess songs. Like it's pretty cute actually. But yeah, so really that's I feel like how it all starts. And um just as I kept growing up, I kept listening to artists that were doing the singer-songwriter thing. And I was like, oh, wait, like I can do this. Like I can write about my life. And I think I was like 13 when I like wrote my first like real song that was like actually a song in the sense of I'm like, that's a verse and that's a chorus. And let me like, you know what I mean? Not just like almost like being silly in a notebook for a whole page and calling it a song. And yeah, it's just something that I knew I loved and that I wanted to do. And so I just never stopped. So yeah.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, at what point along that whole timeline was it like, I want to start putting stuff out? Like the
Yeah.
artist thing is really like just going beyond just that like songwriter step is like the artist thing was something you wanted to commit to.
Totally. Well, when I was like 14 or 15, I did this like local music like performance competition that was going on in Utah, where there were different music companies in the area that were sponsoring it and offering prizes. And there was this new recording studio in the area that was offering a prize. And I went and sung one of my original songs. What was it called? It was probably called like Rain or something. It was very cute. I wrote it in like seventh grade. I think I sung it at my ninth grade talent show. It was really cute. But I sung that, and I got offered a prize through them to go and record a couple songs with them. And so I think I like finally got my taste of what it was like to record when I was like 15, 16 years old. And I recorded a EP, and it was really cute. It's funny, literally last night, someone on Twitter like commented on the fact they just like, it was a friend from high school that was like, my biggest claim to fame is I have a signed original EP by Dasie. And I checked, it literally came out in 2013. I had a whole release party and everything. It was really fun. I mean, the songs are obviously very like, I was 15, 14 when I wrote them, so they're very young, but
Mhm.
they're pretty cute. So I think once I like did that, I was like, okay, this is cool. I love this. This is what I'm gonna do. And I just got bit with it and it never stopped. So here we are now.
Here we are.
Yeah.
It's just kind of gone on since then, which is great. I mean, 2013, that was 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
I know that actually really freaked me out last night when I was like, oh my gosh, that was 10 years ago. I will say it's not like I've been like necessarily like working and like putting out music really
Hmm.
for 10 years. Because I like put that out and then I went to college. I did that music program. That's not necessarily like the like not everyone needs to do that, and I won't say that everyone does, but it was really cool. I didn't go to like a big fancy music school either. I just went to a school in Utah. It was awesome though. And I like released some songs while I was in college, almost just like with my friends who was
Mm-hmm.
like we recorded it in their bedroom studios, and it was like a lot more like folksy than what I do now. Like it wasn't really, yeah. I mean, I stand by it. It was fun. It was cool, but you know, it's definitely different from what I'm doing now. And but then once the pandemic hit, which I feel like is how a lot of people tell their stories now, they're like, when the pandemic hit.
Yep.
But I graduated college spring of 2020, and so that definitely leaves a lot of like, wait, crap, what do I do with my life? And that's when I was like, all right, well, let's like do this a little bit more seriously and find people who can like make the music sound a little bit better than I can in mixing things myself, you know?
It's always a plus.
Oh my gosh. And especially like I don't know what I thought I was doing mixing my own music. I mean, it is fine, but it's not great, you know? And so I invested a little bit. I was working from home and I was living with my parents. And so yeah, that's when I kind of came up with the project and how I wanted it to sound and kind of like what the story I was telling was. And so, yeah, and then we started there. So I feel like even though I've technically been putting out music for 10 years, it feels like it's only been since like 2021 because that's when I was like, this is the sound, this is what it is. And I was like, yeah. Anyway,
Right.
sorry if that was a long-winded
No, no,
answer.
you're good. No, it definitely, like, to put it in perspective, like 10 years is a long time. And to say like you've like
Yeah.
10 years is, there is expected to be a lot of pauses or lapses and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I know doing it in college is not the easiest thing to try and
No.
like put extra time into that, especially when you're already exerting
Yeah.
your creative energy into a music program for school. Then it's like,
Yes.
oh, I want to do this whole thing on top of that. That
Yeah.
creative part of my brain is just mush
It
at that
doesn't.
point. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's even if it's 3 years, it's not going to be a nonstop continuation, day after day. A decade
Absolutely.
is a long time, but
Yeah.
it's a nice, decade since when you started, but not like necessarily continuous momentum since then. That's fine.
Exactly. And
I feel
also
like you'd be
though,
burnt out if it was just
true,
a continuous thing since age 15.
true that. And also, I mean, I think the things that we do in between the releases or in between the writing can be just as beneficial for us, you know, like the
Absolutely.
growing and learning you do. So, you know, it's not a waste even still, which I don't think anyone who would be listening would be like, oh, you wasted your time. But you know, it's a good reminder for myself to be like, I think I had a moment last night where I was like 10 years, like, oh no. And then I was like, no, I was literally 15. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay, you know,
Yeah.
like you're a
Yeah.
child and you had a lot of growing up to do.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm
anyways.
23 and I feel like I still have growing up to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm 25 and I somehow feel really old and really like reminded about how young that is all at the same time.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
mhm.
No, absolutely. It's like I yeah, it's like yeah, I have nothing. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's no words that are going to put together for that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I get that because I feel like because like I graduated last spring, and so I feel like I'm in the same, like I'm in my parents' basement,
Mhm.
kind of just
Yep.
refining where I ultimately want to be, like
Mhm.
sound wise, and so like I'm just like I'm you 2 years later.
Well, yeah, because that's what I was literally 23. Oh man. I feel for you, man. I literally was working like a customer service job from home,
Oh no,
8
thank you.
hours of the day, and the rest of it was like, wait, what are we doing? What is this? So I feel you, but hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I promise.
It's not the
Oh,
parents' house forever.
no, it's not. But you know what? The parents' house serves a great
Oh,
function. We're
dude,
grateful for it.
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Oh man.
absolutely. That's it's beautiful. Not having to pay rent, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely
honestly,
wonderful.
that gave me a kickstart. So it was good.
Oh yeah. Um, what do you find most often inspires your songwriting?
um, well, I think it's maybe a given to say my own live experiences.
Hmm.
But I also I really love now being older and writing about things that happened when I was younger. Um, I feel like I'm always just like a really slow processor, which, you, you know, I could probably like bring up with a licensed therapist to be like, why am I still affected by this? But at the same time, like I feel like I'm not really good at writing about stuff in the moment that it's happening, but it's almost like when I'm going back to be like, hey, what was little me like going through? What was she thinking? I really like drawing from those things. And, you know, with like I released an EP in June, and this yeah, June of last year. So wow, actually now almost a year. And like I almost like consider that EP like a love letter to like a younger version of me, where it's like I don't really feel the things I was expressing in the EP anymore, but I did, and I did really strongly. And so I like drawing from the moments that I don't feel like the younger me or like that version of me said her piece, you know, and I kind of like
Mm.
filling in the gaps. And I call my genre petty pop. And that's kind of like what I define that as, is like, you know, it's just like saying, hey, I'm not finished yet. And
Hmm.
coming in and finishing that. So yeah,
It,
it's,
it might
I
take a
don't know.
minute, but it'll get wrapped up.
Yeah, and it might take years, but I'm not finished yet.
We have
But
not
yeah, I feel
stopped
like
yet.
I really I draw from those past experiences, and yeah, that's kind of what I use to tell the story.
That's interesting. Do you like ever take it in a like present moment, like a attempt at that kind of thing, or does it just purely kind of a focus on what happened before?
I mean, I guess obviously I will sometimes like
Hmm.
take it. I think more recently I had like a really fun writing session where I went in and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this last weekend at a party, like I felt like a loser. I felt like this and it sucked. And that's like what we like were able to write the song about. And it was a song I really love and I'm actually going to be putting out soon. And so I definitely, I guess it's silly for me to say that like, oh, I only really like draw from past experiences. But like I said, sometimes I'm a bit of a slow processor. So it's almost like hard to like really like dial in the moment about like, this is what I'm feeling right now. And but at the same time, like songwriting is a form of self-expression first and foremost. And so sometimes you just need to make your feelings rhyme to help make sense of them. And so I'll definitely do that as well. So yeah. But I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think you take a different approach or see kind of different results between the ones that you write about previous years
Mm-hmm.
versus like present day? Like, do those look different? Are they approached different, or is it all just kind of the same?
You know what? I actually think kind of, because I think especially when I was making the songs for my EP, I was very intentional with like almost being like, okay, I need a song that is angry. I need a song that sets the tail. I need the song that, you know, finishes it. And I would get little like brings of inspiration of like a lyric idea, and then I would kind of like fit it into the story and figure out what song it was or what story it was telling within the context of the entire story that I wanted to tell. And so I actually do think maybe if I'm like, okay, it's time to write a song now about this, I think I'm a little bit more intentional and purposeful in that, as opposed to like if I'm just like writing because I need to say something right now, you know, where it's just like
Hmm.
almost like the typical songwriter at 3 a.m. being like, I'm pissed or I'm sad or I'm alone. It feels a little bit more like stream of consciousness and a little bit less about perfecting it, you know? I
Mm.
think sometimes when I'm writing a song, it's like the function of this is to like tell this story about, like, for example, I have a song called Tainted Summer where I got the line when I was actually still in college of, you're a fading lover of a tainted summer. And I knew that, like, okay, cool. Like, this is the story I want to tell here. And so now how do I like almost like craft it? It almost feels more of like a, not like an assignment, but almost of like a exercise in like the
More
songwriting
directed.
craft. Yeah, definitely. That's the word. It's like more directed, where it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm drawing off of like current passion moments. It's more of just like going through my memory bank and being like, what can I really draw from to tell this full picture? But I think in other circumstances, it's just a little bit more stream of consciousness and a little
Mhm.
bit, maybe a little bit more angry too. It depends on what I'm feeling, I guess, in the
Rightfully
moment.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does it's interesting how it does kind of waver. Like every once in a while
Mm-hmm.
it's that just there's this idea, and then it's like everything is around that because that is what ultimately
Mm-hmm.
like was that bling moment.
Yeah,
But then
that was the
otherwise it's
bling.
like, okay, this is the topic at hand. What do we do?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
always interesting.
Which is, I guess, the fun thing about songwriting is it's different every time, and you
You
hear every
never you
songwriter
never
say
know
that.
what you're gonna get.
You never know what's
You
gonna
never
happen.
know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. Um, this question you kind of already touched on,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually kind of crafted it because of what you've already touched on.
Cool.
But if you had to create a new genre around your
Aha.
style of music, what would it
Mm-hmm.
be called?
Cool.
You are the reason this question exists. So I need to know the petty pop story now.
All right. Well, the funny thing is like the petty pop kind of became like it was created on accident, but it was like a happy accident that I don't think I even realized what like. I don't remember the moment that I was like, my genre is petty pop, but I was working on a certain song called Wish I Was Cool. And it's definitely my pettiest song. Like it's pretty petty. And it's petty in the sense that it's like, all right, like, are we talking about this still? And I'm like, yeah, we're talking about this still. And and I think, yeah, and I was just like kept joking about the fact that I knew this was so petty. And actually in the song, I love a good talking moment in a song because I am a Taylor Swift fan and Taylor Swift loves a good talking moment in a bridge. And there's a moment at the end of the bridge, I'm like, did that sound petty or something like that? And so when I was working on that song, I think I just like I don't remember like the first time it happened where I like was like, oh, I'm petty pop, but I just like started using that phrase like
Hmm.
petty pop, because that was the song. And I made a TikTok video about like a TikTok of being like, this is why you should listen to my music. And and I said that my genre is petty pop. And people really latched onto that and like thought that was funny. And I'm glad because I thought it was funny too. And so once I realized that people were really resonating with it and like resonating with that, I'm like, I mean, that sounds weird that it's like they were resonating with it, but like truly, it just felt like people were latching onto that and
Right.
remembering that. And so I realized that it actually was pretty memorable. And truth, and then I was like, well, the whole thing that I'm doing, like this is petty. Like, so I feel comfortable defining myself as petty pop. And so I just kind of took it on. Now though, because now I've been like, crap, have I like trapped myself into only writing angry
Mm.
songs? So now I like in my head, I define that like petty pop either means that I'm being petty or it's just I'm being brutally honest. And sometimes
Ooh.
being painfully honest, that can feel petty. It can feel, or like from someone's perspective, they're going to say,
Right.
you don't have to be so honest. You don't have to, put yourself out there so much. And so I think that if you listen to my music, there is a lot of bitterness and pettiness, but there is also a lot of just like me being really honest about the way I'm feeling. And so that's kind of the way I've made it stay petty pop, even if
Hmm.
I'm not, calling out all my ex-boyfriends for the rest of my life. Like at a certain point, I got to move on. So I
But we're
think
still
that's
in
how it
that
works.
years later.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still so fun.
Oh yeah. No, you can tell a story 100 times over and tell it 100 different ways.
That is so true. And also, I think something that people who are not songwriters don't get is it's like, if I'm writing a song and releasing a song about it today, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how I feel about it right now and
Correct.
today. So you're
Correct.
right. Like I got the rest of my life if I want. There's so many ways I can tell that story.
Uh,
So, and I will.
absolutely.
So,
Well, right. And then if it's like also like one of those things, like if you're looking back at it and then there's like something that you're like one of those moments where it was like, wait, like
hmm,
something that happened like 4 years ago and you're like, wait, that's why that
yeah.
happened the way that it did. And then
Hmm.
boom, new idea, you
The
know?
older, wiser lens is a great tool to
Oh,
use in your
absolutely.
songwriting.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
No, but the petty pop thing, like I love asking that question because one, people hate it. because nobody knows what they want to say, because it's like it's something new. Like it's not just like, oh, like I do very like indie pop. Like that's, everybody and their brother does indie
Oh
pop
my gosh.
anymore.
Well,
It's
same. That was my least favorite question to answer. Is people like, what's your genre of music? I'd be like, I don't know, pop music. Leave me alone.
yeah, but
So
pop means so many different things, especially in the current
yeah.
landscape. So like I like asking
Mm-hmm.
that, because it's like you have to kind of create essentially a genre of one. Like that's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like then when people hear that phrase, it's going to stick out, and if it sticks out and it's associated with your name, you
It's
instantly
perfect.
stick out to them,
Yeah.
which
That's the
is
idea.
kind of the whole game.
And I think too, like I've realized in the ways that it gives away sonically what I'm doing, because like when you listen to my music, it sounds like it's dramatic in the way that it's not subdued. It's not this, like, it's very like out there pop music. I open up my EP with like a whole like orchestral moment, like before going into a song called Welcome to the Opera. Like it's camp a little. It's cheesy. It's like it's overemphasized, but like it's petty pop. Were you expecting otherwise?
Yeah, really.
So I've kind of like found out and figured out almost like after I coined the term, I was like, oh, okay, like this is what that means sonically. And
Yeah.
it's fallen into place almost like too perfectly. But I feel like when things feel easy and natural, that's like, oh, cool. Like that's
Yeah.
sometimes a good indicator that you're going in the right direction.
No, and I think what's interesting about the phrase itself is like pop, yes, like that just kind of puts it in
Mm-hmm.
like out of the world of everything. That puts it in like this narrow little section. But like the pettiness also comes from what you're writing about. Like that's kind of where
Yeah.
you said it started. So it's not just giving you that context of sonically what you're getting, but it's
Mm-hmm.
getting sort of that like context as well. And while you're not pigeonholed to that specific little thing, it's still like it's going to remain on brand, because that's what it like that's just what it is naturally.
Because
It's not like
yeah.
forced. It's not, oh, I'm going to write intentionally this. It's like petty pop came after.
Yeah, Petty
It
Pop came
came after.
after this
It
all
this
happened.
wasn't this isn't like this it's true. It's still like authentically you. It's just
Yeah.
with the definition now.
Yes, exactly. It just coined what was already happening in a way that ended up, yeah, catching on.
And
It was funny because Julia Michaels like released a song a couple
mhm.
months ago at this point, but her original caption about it was Petty Pop. Like she's like, Petty Pop is here. And I was like, no, that's mine. Which like obviously like it's like
Copyright it now.
I know, I'm like, no. Which I mean, obviously joke. I love Julia Michaels. But it made me feel good because there were like a couple people in the comments that were tagging me of like, oh, Dasie, like Petty Pop. And I was like, wow, this is working. That people are seeing the famous people say it. A
Hmm.
famous person say it, and they're still being like, oh, you mean Dasie? And I was like, yeah.
Ah.
But nothing against obviously like Julia. I'm not saying
No,
Julia Michaels
absolutely.
stole that from me. Like it's just funny.
No, that I mean, the fact that people were able to see it and recognize it and still associate it with
Yeah.
you're doing
It
something with
it
it, you
made me
know?
feel really good that I was
Oh,
like, okay,
absolutely.
famous person is using it or using that phrase, and there's still a couple people out there that's like tagging me and being like, isn't that fun? Isn't that like, hey, like she's coming for your brand? I mean, it was obviously a joke,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but
No.
it still was good.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there a release that you think is the best embodiment of who you are as an artist? Like one song to sell people on Petty Pop, sell them on Daisy. What song do you pick?
Wow, that's a good question. I think uh, I think it would be You Wanted Me to Stay,
Okay.
um, which is a song of mine that closed my EP.
You saw me leaving, can't do this anymore. Your silence was screaming as I walked out of the door. 5 years I fought for you, did all you asked me to, gave you my trust you couldn't keep. All you had
part of me is like, but is it? I think that it really shows the brutally honest part of Petty Pop, and writing that song kind of felt like I was just like spilling out into my diary and like finally like putting out everything. And I think but at the same time though, there is some bitterness and pettiness kind of in that I mean, it always, I think, exists when you're like wrapping up how you feel about a major life event that happened. You know, there's always going to be maybe a little bit of bitterness about that if it didn't go originally how you thought it would. So yeah, I think You Wanted Me to Stay. It's like, I mean, I don't want to like say I have a favorite song of mine personally, but I think it is. I think it is my favorite one still, at least of the ones I've released, that it just like feels like my song baby, you know, like it feels like the special one. So I would say that one, even though it's like more of our chill one. Anyways, sorry.
No, I mean, You Wanted Me to Stay, that title in itself kind of suggests a little bit of pettiness.
That's true. Yeah. The whole chorus is like, well, I bet you wanted me to stay.
That's got some sass to it.
You didn't have the guts to ask me to, and I bet you wanted me to.
Damn.
So
that's tough.
You're right.
Hate to be that guy.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's like, girl, like this girl's crazy. She needs to get over it.
Maybe he's like, no.
Like I so did not. Like I was out of there.
No.
And I mean, that's definitely, I don't know. It is so funny to put out songs that are unashamedly autobiographical, you know, especially I think almost like as a not famous person, because sometimes it's like the audacity that I have to just be like, yeah, this matters, you know. But it's art. It's what we're doing here.
No,
we're telling our stories. But
this is
I don't
significant
know
enough to put it out there for the world.
Yeah. You're right though. Did he want me to stay? Probably not. But you know, that's none of my business. It's my this is my
he
side of the
definitely
story.
doesn't now that you wrote this about him.
So true.
he's like maybe I did, but I definitely don't anymore.
Like, girl, get over it. I'm like, yeah, fair point.
Or I mean, like, you never know, he could just not even realize it's about him.
I think he'd be an idiot.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think I unfortunately made this very obvious. So
okay. At least
that was
to
my
him.
bad. That was my bad. Yeah, he knows.
That one's on
knows.
me.
Yeah, a lot of things are on me. This one, like, he knows.
This one.
He hasn't said anything, but if he's listened, he knows.
He knows.
Yeah, he knows.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, true.
If you had to pick 2 or 3 artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would you choose?
Cool. Well, it's very clear from my TikTok. My TikTok is me promoting my music and also talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Pretty 50-50.
Kind of depends on the day. I'm personally trying to be like, talk more about your music, but I'm like, but the Taylor Swift content's so fun. I'm trying to be more intentional, I swear. But Taylor Swift is a big one. I think she was like one of the first artists, really growing up, that I really latched onto, that I was like, oh, you can do this and you can be autobiographical and you can be fearless, because she has an album, but like, you know, you can be fearless in this and go for it. So definitely Taylor. I also already talked about her, but I really love Julia Michaels. I think that she's one of the most incredible like pop songwriters, and finding her and being aware of the songs that she was writing, I think it really made me put pop music more on a high pedestal. I've always loved pop music, but I think it really made me realize how much it is as an art form, you know. I think in college I was like, oh, to be like a cool serious musician, you have to do like cool, like, you know, like serious folk music or something like that. But I think Julia Michaels is just such an, like, I don't know, she's just such a artist, but like also like it's her skill, you know, and to write pop music. So definitely her as well. Who else? I really love Casey Musgraves, but I don't know if that's like actually my music. I just love her though. So shout out to her, I guess. Honestly, I think Lana Del Rey is another person in the sense of like her music is very dramatic. And her aesthetics oftentimes were very dramatic and overstated. And growing up as a teenager, I loved her Born to Die and Ultraviolence albums. And I think that's obvious that I just love the dramatic themes. And I mean, she takes it in a direction I don't generally go, but you know, I think her influence is still there. So
Yeah, she's definitely got the dramatics sonically for sure.
yes. And I
For
think that
sure.
that's something sonically that I just love. I love the dramatics. I love that in production and I love that in a song. And so I think I got that from her as far as like what I'm attracted to and what I like and what I want to make.
Love dramatics to the point of the EP being called Drama.
Yeah. Yep. A theme. Here we are. It's all
Well,
very on brand.
At least I was gonna say, at least it's all in the same. Like you're not going 10 different directions. Like we have a
No.
mainstay here.
That's very true. Yes, we do.
I don't know why, but because I when you wanted me to stay is the
Mhm.
one of yours that like when I think of like your music comes to my mind. And I was
Yay.
thinking about it this morning though, and I didn't really like I associated it with you, but I honestly was like I asked myself this morning, I was like, is this her song or is it Taylor Swift's? Just because I was like
Oh,
that, like, because the line, I guess you wanted me to stay, sounds very like that's something she would write. The way that the melody is, I was like,
yeah.
that just sounds. And I'm not the Swiftie that you are, and I never will be. And I'm comfortable being in this like
That
halfway
is
there
okay.
spot.
I
But I'm not well versed in
recognize.
her music enough to know
Uh-huh.
like, oh, for sure that's not, or for sure it is.
Uh-huh.
So I just like had that moment and I was like, wait. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure. I was like, I have to check. And I was like, okay. Then I listened to it and I was like, okay, it went exactly as
Mhm.
I remembered it.
No, I definitely, it's very obvious that I studied from the Taylor Swift songwriting Bible in the sense that, you know, that was really been the main thing I've listened to since I was like 13 years old. I did a round here in Nashville actually this last weekend and someone DM'd me. They're like, I really hope you take this as a compliment, but like, I got such Taylor Swift vibes from your songwriting. And I'm like, you don't know just how big of a compliment that is. So thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
No, it. I mean, like listening to it again, I was like, I
Mhm.
definitely see the influence, but it's
Mhm.
not like Taylor Swift Jr. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
it's
that's also
you've
the
separated
thing.
it enough that
Okay,
it's
good.
still your own.
Mhm.
Taylor Swift isn't petty pop. Come on now.
No,
She's
that's
just not.
true. I mean, she had her petty pop moment with one of her albums, Reputation, but she's not
No.
petty pop. You're right.
It's not her mainstay.
Well, that's the thing I sometimes have to watch myself of being like, all right, are we being too Taylor? But, you know, I hope not. That's all. I don't know if I'm succeeding. Sometimes I'm
No,
like, we'll see.
no. I think there's a good mix of it. I think if anything, it shows through in some of the like melodic choices or
Yeah.
even some of the like lyric kind of structure.
Yeah.
But nothing to the point where it's like, wait, like if I put y'all both on the same playlist, I would be able to separate. Let's put it
That's
that
all
way.
that matters. Cool. We're good at that.
What is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist?
Oh, so well, I actually have a podcast. It's totally separate from what I do as Dasie, called More Than a Muse, where each week me and one of my really good friends from high school, actually, we've been doing it now for, oh my gosh, a year, 2 years? Wow, 2 years. Where we go and we find the purpose of the podcast is to find women from history that are like artists from history that like people don't really know about and tell their stories. And so I that is, I think, a huge passion of mine of just like learning about women from history and doing that research on them. Like I recently wrote a song called Mrs. Presley, and it was really honestly a lot based on like what we were doing with the podcast, with like literally a lyric in the song being like, I'm more than just your muse. And so that's something that I do in my free time. Like when I'm not doing music and I'm not working, like that is a passion project of mine that I think it does affect my music a lot because I'm just learning about so many cool women and, you know, drawing from their stories a lot actually now. So it's fun.
I think, and that's like a nice little like middle ground between something completely out of left field and like right
Yeah.
edging on the side of like, oh, it's basically a part of my artistry.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's
it just
something that I can build that doesn't feel like I'm like always doing music. It's a nice break from that.
absolutely. And I mean, clearly it's affecting it if you wrote a song called Mrs. Presley. So
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
it's a secondhand influence right there.
I know. But yeah, I wish I had like some cool like other hobby of like, oh, I do this, you know, I'm like really good at juggling. I don't know, but I
don't know how that would tie in.
I don't know either.
But
Goodness gracious. But yeah, definitely the podcast. It's something I love doing. So keep doing it.
yeah, for sure. What is the ideal listening scenario for someone to consume your music in?
Oh, what a fun question.
Thank you.
I would say like 2 a.m. alone in your bedroom. Well, maybe not because I don't want you to be sad. But like 2 a.m. alone in your bedroom when you are like, I don't know if this is like a universal experience, but like sometimes I'll just get like a jolt of energy at like 11:30 p.m., you know? And what do? I just turn on some music and I'm just like dancing in my bedroom. Like that's almost like the vibe I'd want. Not 2 a.m. in your bedroom, like crying and sad, but like 2 a.m. alone in my bedroom. Like tomorrow I'm going to get everything done. I'm
Oh yeah,
so
one of
cool.
those.
Like, or almost like you're cleaning your room, like doing a
Oh
deep
yeah.
clean randomly at 2 a.m, just being like, I'm cool. I'm awesome. No one gets the right to disrespect me. I'm going to listen to Daisy's drama while I'm like getting my life together. That's the vibe, I think.
Okay, because the original 2 a.m. by yourself made me think, and I was like, I don't feel
Yeah.
like that fits here.
Well,
But
at first when I said that, that's what I meant. I was like, no. This is like the 2 a.m. like
yeah,
you should be in bed, but you're too busy getting stuff done and you're feeling yourself because you're passionate about what you're doing.
Okay.
You know? Or
Yeah.
you're dancing alone in the kitchen kind of vibes. I don't know.
I was gonna say your music, like at least the EP is too upbeat to be sad.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, but no, that's like Tainted Summer is definitely a hype up kind of vibe. Like,
Thanks.
get that
That's
energy going.
That's honestly like okay, I said You Wanted Me to Stay is my song, baby. I feel like Tainted Summer is because that's like my underappreciated baby where I'm like, I love this song so much and it deserves more. You know, do you ever like feel that about like the music you make? Like this song deserves more, but it's fine. It's fine. Anyways,
Almost
so,
everybody I
Tainted Summer.
talk to is like, the song that sits at the top of my profile is not the song that is really like my
No.
best
No.
or even my favorite. But
No.
everybody's gonna have a different favorite, you know.
Yeah. I
But
think
at the
Tainted
same time, it's
Summer
like,
is
really,
my
like, it's this one. It's not even like usually one of the like better ones. It's like, really, like, this is
I
the one
know.
that we're riding out here.
Literally, yes.
Why? I have these other ones that are like so much better, but this
You
is
just
where we're
never can
sitting.
predict it. I was so surprised. Like You Wanted Me to Stay happened to like get on some editorial playlist on Spotify. That was the biggest shock of my life because it literally went against all the rules of like what is supposed to like get on those playlists. Like it was a really long introduction. It was actually kind of a long song. It was really sad. Like it didn't go viral on social media by any means. It just got like
Interesting.
picked up by these playlists and I was so shocked, but I was also like
I'm not mad about it.
I'm literally thrilled. Like this is fine, but it was so surprising. And yeah, it's just funny. Like the point being of like, yeah, who knows? Like,
you really don't.
You really
like,
don't know. You can follow all the rules.
You can
The songs that you don't think are going to do the best, they're going to do the best, and the songs that you think could have, should have done the best, they won't. They won't do it.
There's almost a guarantee you will have one that you will be fighting for till you're blue in the face, and it will not be competing with these other ones that you could care less about.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
It's just, it's interesting how that always seems to play out, but it is what I mean. At least something's doing well.
Oh, true.
You
I'm
know?
not complaining.
Right?
Like,
You know, like at least something's getting some
I'm zero complaints
traction.
here. Yeah.
Absolutely. What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
Oh, I mean, that's hard because I don't want to like put down other independent
No, no,
artists.
I mean just like separate like what would
I
like
mean,
separate you from the noise, not in like a hierarchy kind of like,
true,
oh,
true,
I'm better
true.
than everybody at this or something. No, not that
I
kind
mean,
of that's not what we're doing here.
I know that I also like know you. I feel well enough to know you're not going to be like, so like, let's talk crap now. Like,
So who are we shitting on today?
yeah, let's
No.
list all the people we're better than.
Yeah,
Like,
no, no, no.
okay, I'm ready. Just kidding. I'm not ready. Well, I think maybe the thing that would, oh man, I really feel like it's the petty pop. And I think that I really I really value like connecting with people and being open. And in one sense, like the petty pop is a facade, but in another, it's like it's not at all. And so I really hope that when people find my accounts or they listen to my music, that that they do feel empowered in a way about what they're doing. Um, and I do think that kind of like maybe more purposeful like intention behind like the music that I'm putting out, and as far as like its purpose, like I do have a very it is very purposeful what I'm doing in the songs that I'm putting out. And yeah, I think that's my thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you did the genre of one before it kind of I feel like it's become more of a kind of conversation anymore just because there's
Mm-hmm.
also like on the like I know on like the business side of things it's always you want to create like a category of one. So it's like
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
same thing but like music but like even I mean you just kind of did it without it
Yeah.
being like intentional. It was just kind of like
It was
she
natural. Mm-hmm.
happened. She happened and we're keeping her at least for now.
And we're not stopping because it keeps
No.
working.
Yeah,
So yeah,
really.
exactly.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Literally, exactly. Mm-hmm.
What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
Yeah. I feel like I want people to feel empowered. I feel like a lot of the music I write, it's for younger me, like I mentioned. But when I look at who younger me was, I feel like it was someone who wasn't willing to stick up for herself. It wasn't willing to say that like I deserve more in a lot of aspects of my life, not just like in a relationship. I'm not making this about a relationship. And and that's something sometimes I'll add on where it's like I feel like before I was like the typical like nice girl where I was like I didn't want to be too loud. I didn't want to make too much of a fuss. I didn't want to like inconvenience anyone. And so sometimes I add on that like this is petty pop, but it's petty pop for nice girls, or like for the
Mm.
nice girls who felt like the way that I did, where they, you kind of get stuck in that insecurity loop. And so I feel like I'm making music for that younger version of me, which means I'm making music for anyone who would relate to that. And I hope that through me and through, I guess, the messaging of my music and I guess even who I am, that people can like say, "Oh, cool. I can take up space. I can tell my stories and I can be a little bit petty and messy about it, and that's okay." Like, I don't have to feel shame in that.
No, I mean yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is this is something that's come up before. It's like whether it is specifically down to a T
Mhm.
details from your lived experience or it's something that's more vague and open-ended, there are
Yeah.
going to be so many people that understand every single word of it. Like
Mhm.
even if it's like the specific details might not be their same experience, but the overall sort of like lived in thing is like the human experience is very much kind of just cookie cutter with some like loose edges here and there in the
Yeah,
sense of like
definitely.
we all experienced a lot of the same things. I mean, we just got done saying earlier like I'm you 2 years later.
Mhm.
Like it's all the same stuff to a degree, but it's like
Totally.
that's why art is a thing. That's why music specifically is a thing. That's why there are thousands of people that will understand the same song but have come from 1,000
Different
different
places.
backgrounds.
Mhm.
It's crazy, but it's like
That's why we do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we do it. You know,
Mhm.
if this is something that I feel like I have to say and like I experienced and want to kind of put out there, there's going to be even more people that are going to connect
Resonate.
with that, and
Yeah.
it's going to resonate with them, and it maybe in an unexpected way, you know, like it's like we have those like websites that are like, oh, like da 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 song meaning, and it's
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
thousands of people are just putting their take on it,
Their
and
take on it. Absolutely.
who knows, nobody may ever know what the actual story was,
Yeah.
but
So
everybody
true.
gets it.
Mhm.
It's crazy
No, it is really cool. It's very beautiful.
in its own way.
Mhm.
But then it has that kind of catch 22 when it's if it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I didn't really like love this experience, and then it's like
That's
all those
true.
people, it's like, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry that happened to you too, but
That is like my favorite way to like introduce songs. Like if you relate to this,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Yeah, like
I
it's
hope
just
you connect to no part of the song.
yeah, that it's like I hope you relate, but like, oh gosh, like I really hope you don't because like
Yeah.
I remember the space I was in when I wrote
Yeah.
it and that was not good. So
I hope you understand, but you don't connect.
that's
Almost.
sometimes. But also it's like I hope you connect enough to keep streaming.
Yeah.
Which goes back to having make this like a business and that you're trying to grow. It's just
Oh
it's
yeah.
so fun.
That's the tricky part of it all.
Mhm.
Creativity and business are not always best friends.
No,
No,
they're
they are
not.
not.
But here we are,
But here
trying
we
to make it
are.
work.
Okay, I think that brings us to the final question, which is the
Ooh.
ultimately the concept behind the whole podcast, which is
Mhm.
why music?
Mhm. Is that just the
That's
whole
it. Why
question? Just why
music?
music? Oh man. Well, I think why music because it was never gonna be anything else, you know? That's just it. I think that no matter what I'm doing with my life, it was always gonna be there. It was always gonna be something. And I knew that if I didn't give it a go and do it, that I would regret it for the rest of my life, you know? And so I was like, well, I can either like be 80 on my deathbed and say, oh, why didn't I do it? Or I can just put it out, you know, I can just try and do this and be proud of it and not stop. And so, yeah, I really feel like that just, it's the simple answer. Like why music is because like, well,
Why
wasn't like
not?
I said, wasn't going to be anything else. Like it's the thing that made me really happy as a kid. It's the thing that gives me the most joy and fulfillment in my life now is writing songs and you know, like I said, making my feelings rhyme. It's my favorite thing to do. So that's all there is to it.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think I'm a firm, I mean, I'm probably a little bit biased to it as an artist myself, but I'm a firm believer that if you like doing or if you love doing something, if you're passionate about something, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Um, Financially, it might not be like your favorite thing, but
Yeah, and also
it'll work out.
financially, it might look different at different times of your life, and
Right.
that's totally okay because we have to survive, unfortunately.
Everybody's timelines are different too. Like
Yeah.
it if you I think if you want it enough and you work for it enough, it'll happen. If
Mm-hmm.
the effort is there, it'll figure itself out. But I mean,
Definitely.
really, what else is there? What is better
Yeah.
than this?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like
Riddle me that.
there's so many like there's little questions of it's like, what's your perfect day? And I was like, if I'm being so honest, like my dream perfect day would involve a writing session. Like, you know, like it would involve multiple. It would just be making music with people. And so like, you know, if it was my last day on earth, I'd want to write a song. And so I feel like if, you know, that's the answer to that question, it's like, well, you're probably doing the right thing then.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah, what else is there, really?
mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. Check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.